Hey folks, there's nothing quite like the holiday season. School's done for the semester and I have nothing to do but relax and enjoy my expansive library of yet unplayed games. Oh, what the hell again?
Michael!
What now? I already learned my lesson. I'm playing other games.
Yeah, but you gotta play Pokemon Platinum. It's been like 2 months.
But that's gonna take so long. I'm not gonna have time to play other games then. You were the one who wanted me to play other games in the first place.
Well, forget what I said. Just play Pokemon. The people demand it.
Who's the people?
Woo!
Alright.
Pokemon Platinum. It's like oxygen. I haven't had it in 2 months.
I'm currently going for the world record for the longest time without taking a breath. I'm pretty close, only 2 more weeks to go. God damn it!
I last left off having beaten Team Galactic in the Valley Windworks, and now I'm free to venture forth and take on the next gym. With the Galactic grunts no longer blocking the bridge, we can finally explore Route 205. I've always liked Route 205 for some reason. It's pretty short, but it has such a relaxing and lighthearted atmosphere. We continue on through, battle a couple trainers, and finally reach Eterna Forest. We meet some lady named Cheryl who wants to travel with us through the forest because she's afraid of Team Galactic. And who wouldn't trust a 12-year-old kid to be their personal bodyguard? This is the first of several partner missions throughout the game where you'll travel through a dungeon alongside a companion trainer, which the fan community has apparently called stat trainers because they each have Pokemon that are strong in a specific stat. I never actually noticed that, but hey, it's interesting. During these partner missions, all trainers and wild Pokemon are fought in double battles, and your party is automatically healed after each fight. It's very convenient because you don't have to waste money on healing items, and a lot of the time your partner will just absorb damage for you while your Pokemon does all the fighting. On the flip side, double battles can be kind of annoying because they just take so much longer. There's so much more text and menus and animations you have to go through than in a normal battle, and considering how slow this game is, as I've discussed before, it gets old fast. Double battles with AI also aren't as fun because you can't really coordinate with them. Double battles are interesting in theory because they add an extra layer of strategy and the ability to optimally pair up Pokemon and attacks. But a lot of that strategy gets removed when the second Pokemon is controlled by an AI because you can't know or direct what their next move is. In this format, you pretty much just have to think for yourself and sometimes try to guess what your partner is gonna do, which sucks because I'm wrong half the time and that can make battles go horribly wrong or at least drag on way longer than they need to. For example, Cheryl's Chansey is fucking useless and can't attack for shit, so I just have to hope that the enemies attack her instead of me while my Pokemon does all the work. It gets pretty annoying when I get focused down. At any rate, we eventually make it out of the forest, and I decide to immediately turn back and catch myself a Budew. I named it Flowey because, like, the flower from Undertale? I don't know, I never played it. I level up Flowey a bit by fighting some fishermen, including the guy with 6 Magikarps who's in every Pokemon game for some reason, and at long last we reach Eterna City. Eterna City is a very relaxed, rustic-feeling town based around history and culture. Here we can find the Explorer kit, which I'll talk about later, and more importantly, the next gym. After talking to the gym leader, we catch up with this stupid bastard who takes us to see a Pokemon statue in the center of town. We see another familiar face who muses vaguely about time and space and Sinnoh's myth for a little while and then leaves. I decide to explore the small area to the east for a little while and I catch myself a Bronzer. I decided to name it 3rd place after the placement I got in the Pokemon nicknaming contest. I head back to the Pokemon Center to add it to the team, and on the way we have our first run-in with Cynthia. She'll become more important as the story progresses, but for now all she does is tell us a bit about Sinnoh mythology and gives us the HM for Cut. After booting Dwayne off the team, I battle a couple more trainers, explore the small accessible area of Mount Coronet, and at last we're off to challenge the gym. This one's a grass gym where you have to defeat trainers to move the hands on the clock at the center and make your way to the gym leader. It ultimately amounts to defeat all the trainers to reach the end, so it isn't much of a puzzle, but it's a pretty aesthetic at least. Thanks to type advantages, I was able to wipe the whole thing with just Falco, and in no time at all, I'm finally able to face off against Gardenia.
This motherfucker gave me so much trouble as a kid. Back when I first played this game, I did what all 7-year-olds new to Pokemon did and tried to solo the game with my starter. I chose Piplup and naturally ran into some issues when fighting a type that it was weak against. I got stomped by that stupid fucking Roserade over and over again until my birthday party when a good friend traded me a Starly. I don't remember exactly how strong it was because I didn't really pay much attention to levels or stats at the time, but it was over-leveled enough that it would disobey my commands half the time, which is what happens when a Pokemon received in a trade is a higher level than the limit set by your amount of gym badges. Despite those difficulties though, I was eventually able to overcome the gym thanks to the trusty overpowered Starly. It evolved into a Staravia after the battle and became a permanent fixture on my team from then on. Still left me with a lifelong fear of Gardenia, though.
Thankfully, she isn't nearly as big of a challenge this time as she was when I was a youngin'. Thanks to the power of having a Pokemon with a type advantage, I was able to make pretty quick work of her. And this is kind of a problem with gyms. Although I still like them in concept, specializing in a single type can cause some problems. As my differing encounters with Gardenia may demonstrate, gym leaders can often be brutally difficult if you don't have a type advantage, but a total cakewalk if you do. In some respects, this is good because it teaches players the importance of the type chart and incentivizes them to have a more balanced team composition. However, gyms primarily just encourage players to brute force it with a type advantage rather than teach them any of the ins and outs of the more advanced game mechanics. There's a lot more to Pokemon battles beyond the type chart, but the games are so piss easy that there's usually little incentive to utilize things like buffs and debuffs and status effects. And this is indicative of a larger problem. Pokemon is just too easy. It just doesn't provide enough of a challenge for obstacles to actually be enjoyable to overcome, especially for someone who's been playing Pokemon for over 10 years. At the same time, you don't necessarily want these games to have a difficulty curve designed for veteran players when they're primarily made for a young, casual audience, so it makes sense that Pokemon games are relatively easy. And this gripe isn't specific to Platinum, this is pervasive throughout pretty much every modern Pokemon game, and Platinum is still more of a reasonable challenge than a lot of the more recent entries. But this is why I appreciate things like Nuzlocke and ROM hacks, because they put a more challenging spin on traditional Pokemon games without detracting from the needs of the core audience. I think they should just add a difficulty setting, to be honest. So we defeat Gardenia, and she gives us the Forest Badge, allowing us to use the only HM worse than Rock Smash, Cut! This conveniently allows us to access the Team Galactic building at the northern end of town, and who else do we find inside but Looker? He's cleverly disguised as a Team Galactic grunt and gives us the lowdown on the place. There are multiple different stairways, and you have to take the right path to continue to the top. You can actually pretty easily tell the right path, whichever one has a sign on the wall is the way to go, but I'm a psychopath and want to thoroughly explore every location, so naturally I'm gonna take all the wrong ways first. This area is another Team Galactic dungeon where you have to fight your way through all the grunts and then battle the boss at the end. Once we reach the top, we face off against Commander Jupiter for our second big galactic boss battle. This battle was actually pretty annoying. First there was the Zubat that kept making me flinch with Bite over and over, and then there was the Skuntank that kept poisoning me and using Night Slash, which is a pretty powerful move at this point in the game. I actually used a battle item for one of very few times in my career. Thankfully this fight wasn't any problem that spamming potions couldn't solve. Well, apparently Team Galactic took this guy's Pokemon, but they're reunited at last after I ran Team Galactic out of the building. And it's a good thing I did, because this guy owns the local bike shop. But before I can cash in my brownie points for free stuff, who comes along but Cynthia again? She wants to give me an egg.
I'm allergic, but I guess.
But first I need to make room in my party for it. It was nice knowing you, Choppa. Pokemon eggs are kinda interesting in the context of breeding, but when it's just NPCs giving them to you, it's more just annoying that you have to walk around to hatch it and the Pokemon's just gonna be level 1. I'd rather they just give me a Pokemon without having to jump through all these extra hoops. Anyway, we enter the shop and finally get ourselves a bike. The bike is as much of a Pokemon staple as the Pokemon themselves, and in this game it allows us to go up muddy slopes and, more importantly, access the cycling road to progress forward. It also lets you travel the region at incredible speeds, far faster than you could go on foot. In this game, the bike has two settings, 3rd gear, which is slower but more steady, and 4th gear, which is much faster but harder to control. Personally, I've never used 3rd gear in my life, and I question your life choices just a little if you do. The bike obviously is incredibly convenient for navigating the region at a quicker pace, but I do have one big issue with it. You can't hear the music. Using the bike has a dedicated theme that overrides the normal background music. It's not a particularly bad song, but I like hearing all the other incredible and diverse tracks that the game has to offer. You can reset the background music back to normal while riding the bike if you enter a new area, but that's not always doable, and sometimes it's just a bit of a hassle, so I often stick to just running. So we fight our way through Cycling Road, battle a few more trainers outside Mount Coronet, and meet up again with Dawn. She gives us the Versus Seeker, which allows you to rematch trainers, and the Dowsing Machine, which allows you to search for hidden items. Then we venture forth through Mount Coronet. This is our second visit to Mount Coronet during the adventure, and it'll become a frequent presence as the game progresses. Not much exploring to do this time around, but we do have another run-in with Cyrus, who laments the weakness of the human spirit or something, I don't know. We continue through to the other side, battle a few trainers on the next route, and then I realize I forgot something. So the Cycling Road actually has an entirely separate route to explore directly below it. There isn't a ton to do here, but there are some rare Pokemon that you can't find anywhere else, like this Gligar I caught. I named it Dave. At the northern end of the route, you can find the entrance to Wayward Cave, which is one of my favorite locations in this game because it combines my two favorite features, high encounter rates and not being able to see shit. I fucking hate dark caves. Not being able to see most of the area you're exploring is annoying enough, but as a person who has a compulsion to scour every square inch of every location in the game, it's especially frustrating because it forces me to walk around way more just to make sure I don't miss anything, which is a gigantic waste of my time. For one, I don't normally find anything as a result of these efforts anyway, and for two, walking on more tiles forces me into way more wild encounters that, as I've mentioned before, happen pretty frequently in caves. These problems can, of course, be mitigated through the use of repels and the move Flash. Thing is, I don't have any repels because I'm broke, and teaching a Pokemon Flash is kind of a commitment. It's not an HM, thankfully, but it is still a disposable TM, so you have to use it wisely. You don't want to use it on a main party member because it's not used frequently enough to merit wasting a move slot on it, but you also don't want to delete it later in case you need to use it again. The solution to this dilemma, of course, is to just use a dedicated Pokemon for Flash that you switch into your party as needed, but I didn't have any extra Pokemon on hand that could learn Flash, and it's not really worth the time investment to go and catch one. So here we are. I continue exploring the cave and struggling with wild Zubats for a while, and what do you know, the egg hatches. And it's a Togepi. I named it Hamlet. Wayward Cave also has a second entrance hidden under the bridge. This allows you to explore a basement area full of slopes and ramps that you need your bike to navigate. I actually like a lot of these biking obstacle courses, but it can be kinda hard to go fast over these ramps when you're getting stopped by wild Pokemon. However, it is here and only here that we can find our next team member, Gibble. It's pretty rare, but after a little while, I finally found one and named it Gibble! I found a couple more items, including the TM for Earthquake, but other than that, there isn't a lot to this area. Except there's apparently another companion mission with a trainer named Myra in the main area, but I never found her? I don't know, it's hard to explore when you can't see. Afterwards, we continue on through the next routes to finally reach Hearthome City. I save a woman's Baneri from certain doom, and a fisherman guy takes me to the contest hall. He wants me to go inside, but before I do that, I decide to take a visit to see Bebe? Beebe? Beeb? Let's go with Beeb. She's the administrator of the Pokemon box system, and meeting her changes the PC menu to say Beeb's PC rather than someone's PC, but more importantly, she offers to give us an Eevee. But before I can accept it, I need to make some room in my party for it. So I stop at the Pokemon Center, battle some reporters that are in there for some reason, and free up a space in my party for our new Eevee. I named it Alpha. Why? I don't know, I recorded this a while ago. I then immediately put Eevee back in the box because I can't just give up on third place that easy. Hearthome City is also home to Amity Square, which is honestly one of my favorite places in the whole game. Here you can go for a stroll with a cute member of your party, and as this dejected and outraged NPC points out, I don't think it's the game's place to decide which Pokemon are cute and which ones aren't, but nevertheless I was able to bring Pingu in for some quality bonding. This place is apparently built around some old ruins with rock cuts that inexplicably allow you to warp to other rock cuts throughout the area and pick up some items. You can also talk to your companion Pokemon to see how it's doing, which will give you some pretty adorable flavor text and occasionally some free stuff. And that's about it for Amity Square. It's pretty small and there really isn't a whole lot to do here, but it's such a charming concept and is such a pleasant location to just walk around in. There are a few other interesting places throughout the city, like the church and the Pokemon fan club, but everyone knows the real star of the show here, the contest hall. We meet again with the girl whose Baneri we saved earlier. She's one of the contest judges, and she gives us some glitter for our troubles. We also get a surprise visit from Mom, who gives us a sexy tux for our contest exploits and debauchery. And finally, we talk to Fantina, the city's gym leader, allowing us to access her gym, which was previously blocked off. And at last, we can partake in the main attraction of this area, the contests. Anyway, our next gym up is the Hearthome City Gym. This one's a ghost gym. The main gimmick here is that you have to navigate in the dark using a flashlight to find a symbol on the ground and then enter the correct door marked with the same symbol. But, I think something's wrong with my emulator. See, the gym is supposed to be dark, so you actually have to put some effort into finding the right symbols and probably run into some trainers. But on here, either because of the ROM itself or the lighting functions of the emulator, the gym is completely lit up and I can easily see exactly where I need to go, which completely ruins any puzzle elements this place might have had. At any rate, I battled all the trainers anyway because it'd be a sin not to, and finally reached the third gym battle with Fantina. Her first Pokemon was a Duskull, which really wasn't too big of a problem aside from Will-O-Wisp, but then she sends out her Mismagius and all hell breaks loose. This thing was way too strong for me to handle. First I send out Flowey, who thankfully gets off a Stun Spore before it becomes very apparent that Mismagius can easily two-shot it, so I switch out to Falco, who promptly gets wrecked without so much as a point of damage thanks to Confusion. So then I'm forced to send in Hamlet for his first battle ever, where I desperately try to stall Mismagius out using Super Potions and hope that it'll ever be affected by Paralysis and I can get some work done with Sweet Kiss and Metronome. Problem is, it took fucking forever for the Mismagius to actually be paralyzed at all, and it recovered from Confusion almost immediately after I used Sweet Kiss on it. Metronome was also extremely unreliable, and I found it pretty much impossible to actually accomplish anything with. Running low on potions and options, I decide to send in third place, who gets almost destroyed by Confuse Ray and Shadow Ball. After a Shadow Ball takes me down to 1 health and lowers my special defense, I'm forced to switch back in Hamlet as a sacrifice so that I can get a free switch into Flowey, who also serves as a sacrifice for me to use a Super Potion to heal up third place, which I couldn't do while it was still out because its lowered special defense would have caused it to get one-shot anyway. Now that its health is restored and its debuff erased, I send third place back in and thankfully get off a Confuse Ray. Mismagius continues to spam Shadow Ball, forcing me to keep using potions, and it then snaps out of Confusion, which means I essentially wasted a bunch of potions for nothing. Luckily, its Paralysis actually works for once, and I'm able to get off another Confuse Ray. However, it managed to outspeed me the next turn and use a Confuse Ray of its own, so now we're even more at the mercy of the RNG gods. Mismagius then hits itself while I manage to land an extra sensory, and finally we start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Then, Fantina uses a Super Potion, almost completely healing the Mismagius back to full health, and I realize these efforts are going nowhere. It then snaps out of Confusion and one-shots me with a random crit Shadow Ball. In one more last-ditch attempt to not get my team wiped, I send in a badly injured Pingu and use my one and only revive on Falco. And it is here that things finally start to turn around. I use another potion on Falco, and luckily the Mismagius gets paralyzed, allowing me to start setting up with Double Team. I continue to spam Double Team while the Mismagius gets paralyzed a few more times and misses a Psybeam. And I think it actually ran out of PP for Psybeam after that because it starts just using Magical Leaf. I finally start to get some work done with Wing Attack, and soon enough the foul beast Mismagius is slain at last. Fantina sends in a Haunter as her last Pokemon, but it isn't nearly as much of a problem as Mismagius was thanks to my prior setup with Double Team. Save for a very close call from a critical hit Sucker Punch, I was able to heal up Falco using my last Super Potion and take the Haunter down without much issue. Finally, after a tense and harrowing struggle, we finally get our hands on the Relic Badge. That battle was terrifying and stressful, probably the hardest one yet, but we did it. Even though it was a bit of a slog at times, that gym battle was what I live for in Pokemon games. Those moments where it's a real challenge, when you're really in trouble, just barely hanging on and you're not sure how you're gonna make it out. Those moments where you really have to stop and think carefully about what your next moves are going to be. Those moments when just one lucky break turns the tide. When a gamble pays off. When one team member comes through for you in a way you didn't expect. When you finally win and feel like you really earned it and struggled for it. It's those moments of fear and stress and contemplation and excitement and satisfaction that I truly live for in Pokemon.
I guess it makes sense that fight was so scary. It's a ghost-type gym after all. I'll see myself out.